My name is Ray Joslin, and I play the dulcimer. The dulcimer is a stringed instrument, acoustical, similar to the harp. A very old biblical instrument. It's also an Appalachian instrument.
My name is Fred Jackson. I'm a vocalist, and I would like to represent the big band era. A big band consists of about 20 instruments and is led by a band leader.
My name is Stacy Funk. My Korean name is Lee Hae-soo. I will be performing the traditional Korean fan dance. This dance was performed for the royalties, kings and queens in the time of Goryeo Dynasty.
My name is Nathan Benedict. My name is Josh Strange, and we are jazz guitarists. The jazz guitar originated around the late 1920s in America. No other instrument had greater influence on how music evolved in the 20th century.
My name is Pavan Raghupati. I play the Indian bamboo flute. The bamboo flute is said to be Lord Krishna's favorite instrument, and it originated in India.
My name is Rachna Raghupati. I do Bharatanatyam, an ancient classical dance form that originated in South India over 2,000 years ago.
My name is Ray Joslin.
My name is Fred Jackson.
My name is Stacy Funk.
My name is Nathan Benedict.
My name is Pavan Raghupati.
My name is Josh Strange.
My name is Rachna Raghupati.
I will be performing the traditional
dulcimer
Korean
is
fan
a
dance.
stringed
By
instrument.
a band leader.
No other instrument had greater influence on how music
An
evolved in the
ancient
20th
classical
century.
dance form that
A
originated
big
in
band
South India over
consists
2,000
of
years ago.
Biblical instrument.
The
It's
jazz
also
guitar
an Appalachian
originated around the late
instrument.
1920s in
Is
America.
said to be Lord
Originated
Krishna's
in
favorite
South India
instrument,
big band.
and it originated in India. India.
My name is Ray Joslin.
My name is Fred Jackson.
My name is Stacy Funk.
My name is Nathan Benedict.
My name is Pavan Raghupati.
My name is Josh Strange.
My name is Rachna Raghupati.
This is Voices and Stories.
My name is Georgia Mergler, and I'm the chair of the Centerville, Washington Diversity Council. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, the Diversity Council's mission is to celebrate and promote an inclusive, diverse, and welcoming community for people who live, work, and worship in Centerville and Washington Township. We use events like Voices and Stories to further that mission. And if you think you'd like to join us in this effort, there is information out on the front table about council membership and the things that we partake in doing each year. There's also a sign-up sheet. If you're not interested in being a council member, that's fine too. We always need people to just come out and support our events, and you can join our mailing list to get email about when those events will take place throughout the year. You can also like us on Facebook. Tonight will be a musical celebration of diversity that depicts the stories of several local musicians. This is our own twist on reality TV. It's slightly theatrical, but it's about real life. We're very fortunate to have the participation of the Centerville High School theater students, led by Mike Cordonier, and the leadership of our programs and education co-chairs, Jerry Strange and Kate Schlegel, as well as the creative guidance of professional director Alan Bomar Jones. So thank you for coming, and we hope you enjoy the show.
That's why I go with that rock and roll music. Any old way you choose it. It's got a backbeat, you can lose it. Any old time you use it. It's gotta be rock roll music. If you wanna dance with me. If you wanna dance with me. The hills are alive with the sound of music. With songs they have heard. With the sound of music, my heart wants to sing every song it hears. So I say thank you for the music, the songs I'm singing. Thanks for all the joy they're bringing. Who can live without it? I ask in all honesty. What would life be without a song or a dance? What are we? So I
I love music, just as long as it's grooving. I say I love music. I say I love music.
Ain't got no trouble in my life. No foolish dream make me cry. I'm never frightened or worried. I know I'll always get by. I heat up, I cool down. Something gets in my way, I go round it. Don't let life get me down. I'm gonna take it the way that I found it. I got the music in me. I got the music in me. I got the music in me. Yeah.
Welcome to Voices and Stories. Tonight, Voices and Stories will focus on music.
And not just any music. Music from various cultures.
Music that will be sung, music that will be played, and music that will be danced.
All you have to do is sit back and listen to the music. 1, 2, 3. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music. Oh, listen to the music all the time.
A big band is a type of musical ensemble that originated in the United States and is associated with jazz and the swing era. Typically consisting of approximately 12 to 25 musicians, the terms jazz band, jazz ensemble, jazz orchestra, stage band, society band, and dance band may describe this type of musical era. And one more name, Fred Jackson. Please welcome Fred Jackson, accompanied by Gloria Bray.
Good evening. It's our pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you. I want to relate how and why I continued singing, because I've been singing since I was 8 years of age, but I think my mother was trying to get rid of me when she enrolled me in a cherub choir. But I got back at her. I do want to mention that I had a very distinct honor and pleasure on December the 5th, 1944. That was the day when the Glenn Miller Band were stopped on the highway at the entrance to our base in England by the MPs. Nobody knew that they were coming, and of course they had to identify themselves. And Glenn Miller made a spur-of-the-moment decision that he wanted to do a program on our base that evening. So after he was cleared by the MPs, he was in touch with our base commander, getting permission from him, and also with his base commander, getting permission from that man too, because they were going to be late, a whole day late. But about 9 o'clock that morning, I was asked to come to our commander's office. When I went in, I was amazed because Glenn Miller was there. And he asked if, since I was the vocalist for the local band on bass, he asked if I would sit in for Johnny Desmond, whom I knew personally because he is from Detroit and I'm from the Detroit area.
I was flabbergasted. But I said I would like to try. So that afternoon, I rehearsed with Glenn Miller, Major Miller, and the pianist. And we made arrangements for me to sit in for Johnny Desmond that evening. I had the privilege of singing about 6 or 7 songs, one of which we will do tonight. I also had an episode that, better check the time though. An episode happened while my wife and I were over in Honolulu attending an insurance convention, and we decided to stay a few days longer. The day before we were to leave, I made arrangements to have dinner at the Canlis restaurant in Honolulu. The Canlis restaurant at that time was one of 5 restaurants in the world with a 5-star rating. The food was excellent, and they had a piano bar that I asked my wife if we could stop at on our way going home, which we did. Naturally, I started singing with everybody else around the piano. But when the pianist took a break, he came over to me and asked me if I would like to do a couple numbers. We did. On our way out that evening, as we got to the door, I got a tap on the shoulder. I looked around and I looked right into the eyes of a gentleman my same height. I asked him what he wanted, and he said, "I would like to talk to you for a few minutes. May I?" And I looked at my wife and said, "What do you think?" She said, "Fine." So he said, "Let me introduce myself to you." So he took a card out of his lapel pocket, gave it to me, and his name was Royal Rosario, music entrepreneur. I gave the card to my wife, Jackie, and he said, "I would like to represent you." And I looked at him, I said, "When? For what?" And he said, "Well, I happen to be the West Coast manager for Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis, the Rat Pack." He said to me, he said, "You have a very commercial voice, and I think you would fit in, and you might very easily become the 4th Rat." Not a very good title. And I told him that I would have to think about it, that I would let him know tomorrow morning. Jackie and I talked about it that evening, and when I got up at 6 o'clock, because that was the time he usually gets up, and I called him and told him my answer. And he was surprised. But he asked me to cut a tape and send it to him. And I said, "Why? You're not going to represent me." And he said, "I want to let the people hear the one that got away." He must have been a fisherman. So, those 2 episodes just pushed me on. And I've been singing, as I say, since I was 8 years of age. Tonight, we would like to do a number, as I mentioned, that I did with Glenn Miller on the 5th of December. 10 days after he was at our base, he was lost at sea. The night that the evening that he left, he had given me his card and said to me, keep in touch with me after the war. Like a fool, I threw the card away after several weeks after his loss had been announced. So I would like actually to dedicate this song to Glenn Miller and the Air Force Band. It's called A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. That certain night, the night we met, there was magic abroad in the air. There were angels dining at the Ritz, and the nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm perfectly willing to swear that when you turned and smiled at me, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. The moon that lingered over London town, poor puzzled mood, he wore a frown. How could he know we two were so in love? The whole darn world was upside down. The streets of town were paved with stars. It was such a romantic affair that when we kissed and said goodnight, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. How strange it was, how very strange. There was never a dream to compare with that crazy, hazy night we met, and a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. This heart of mine beat loud and fast, like a merry-go-round at a fair, for we were dancing cheek to cheek, and a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. When dawn came pealing up all golden blue to interrupt our rendezvous, I still remember how you smiled and said, "Is that a dream or was it true?" Our homeward step was just as light as the tap-dancing feet of the stair. And when we kissed and said goodnight, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. I know 'cause I was there that night in Berkeley Square.
The Appalachian dulcimer is a fretted string instrument, typically with 3 or 4 strings. Its origins in the United States are traced to the Appalachian region. American folk musicians brought
the Appalachian dulcimer to a much wider audience, just as our next musician has done. Please welcome the exciting dulcimer talents of Ray Jocelyn.
Someone stole my old coon dog. I wish they'd bring him back. He chased the big hogs through the fence, the little ones through the crack. Boil that cabbage down, boy, make them hoe cakes brown, boy. The only song that I can sing is boil that cabbage down. Took my girl to the blacksmith shop to have her mouth made small. She turned around a time or two and swallowed shop and all. Boil that cabbage down, boy, make them hoe cakes brown, boy. The only song that I can sing is boil that cabbage down. Once we had an old gray mule, his name was Simon Slick. He'd roll his eyes and bang his ears, but how that mule could kick. How that mule could kick, he kicked with his dying breath. 7 times laid down his throat and kicked himself to death. Boil that cabbage down, boy, make them hoe cakes brown, boy. The only song that I can sing is boil that cabbage down. I know some of you might still be saying, what is that he's playing? Well, that's what I asked my mother when she gave it to me on my birthday. We spent our birthdays together. She lived in Dayton, I lived in Borgia Courthouse. And anyway, I walked in the door on my birthday at her house here in Dayton, and she said, "Here, son, your birthday present." And I said, like you or some of you are thinking, I said, "Well, what is it?" She said, "Well, it's a dulcimer." I said, "Mom, I don't know anything about it. I can't play a dulcimer." She said, "It's got strings. You can play it." you know how mothers are. So anyway, that was quite some time ago. Anyway, I went to the Dayton Dulcimer Society. They had a club with about 140 members. The dulcimer is more popular than you realize. And we were meeting at the Carriage Hill Farm in a huge farmhouse out there. And anyway, the man, a very nice man, there were about 40 people there, and a nice man took me to the kitchen because they were all in the parlor playing their dulcimers, and it really sounded great, 40 dulcimers in one room. Anyway, we get some privacy if we went to the kitchen, so we did. And he taught me 3 chords on the dulcimer. He said, "This is the key of D, this is a chord D. This is G. This is A." So he said, "Now let's go in the parlor and play." So I said, "Okay." That is right. Thank you. Well, anyway, our forefathers, when they came over to this country, they liked musical instruments. They liked a lot of things, but music was one of them. And they built dulcimers back in those days. They didn't have the equipment to build more fancy violins or instruments that took special tools, but they could build a dulcimer, and they did. They built them by the thousands, and they played it. Usually, when the old-timers, I call them old-timers, I am one, they would play them sitting down on a chair with the dulcimer in their lap across their knees. And they would have a belt, they would run a belt around and fasten the dulcimer so when they strummed it wouldn't knock it off. And what they did is they had a little round piece of wood, like a dowel pin, that they called the noter. And they would take that noter and press down on this first string with this hand, slide it up and down the string, and they would take, believe it or not, a turkey quill. Jerry can tell about the turkey quill. and they would strum the strings. I don't have a turkey quill, but I do have, I'll use the back of my hand. It would sound something like this. Maybe you recognize this song. Any guesses? Wildwood Flower. And but the modern dulcimer player did away with the noter, and they did away with the quill and used the plastic pick instead. So I'll take those 3 chords that the teacher taught me, and I'll do a variation of Little Liza Jane for you. This is my version of Little Liza Jane. Well, I hope you've learned something about the dulcimer. And if you are interested at all, the same man that taught me how to play the dulcimer 20 years ago or more will show you how to play the dulcimer if you go over to the hither green. If you know where that's at, they're still playing dulcimers over there. The same man is still teaching after all these years. So I'm going to play one more, and I'll ask my pretty wife, Velma, come up and help me sing this last song. Play a song called, what is the song called? I Like Mountain Music. There we go. I'll play it for you. Good old mountain music played by a real hillbilly band. I like mountain rhythm, I want to play right with them. I think melody's grand. I've heard Hawaiians play songs the wicky-wacky, but I must say I like turkey and straw by cracky. I like mountain music, good old mountain music played by a real hillbilly band.
What he had to do when he stops playing, when he gets through playing. Want to tell him what they tell you when you play with the band?
Yes. It's a courtesy to the people that are playing with you when you get ready to play the song for the last time that you lift your leg. And they'll know that you're going to finish the song. But at my age, I have to be very careful. When I lift my leg, I'll fall over.
I just wonder if his mother knew when she gave him this. He even has played this at the Ohio State Fair. She knew her baby boy enjoyed it that much.
Just as in music, there's a distinction between dance in Korea: court dance, folk dance, native dance, civil dance, and military dance. Tonight, we are proud to have Stacy Funk as she performs the traditional classic Korean fan dance to traditional Korean music.
My story starts in South Korea. I was born in a small town called Tanyang, which is about 3 hours south of Seoul. I have a loving mom and dad who love me very much, but they didn't have very much. And so when I was growing up, I was living with my relatives, aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas until I was about 8 years old. And when I became 8 years old, I needed to go to school and I needed to have a better life, I suppose, they thought. And so they heard about this singing group, children's home called Tender Apples. And so they took me there, and I lived there for 5 years. I was accepted, and they took me in. And so I was blessed to live in this children's home for 5 years, and I went to school, and after school we practiced songs, and then we practiced dancing, traditional Korean folk dance. And that's where I learned the Korean fan dance, which is one of my favorite dances. I was fascinated and just so passionate about the Korean art, the traditional Korean folk music, as well as the dancing. And when I was 9 years old, and I learned this dance, and I am now almost 50 years old, and I'm still doing it. I was blessed to live there for 5 years, like I said, and then when I was 12, I was adopted by an American family. And I came to this wonderful country called America. I'm so blessed to be here. I'm now married, and I have a wonderful husband and 6 beautiful children. And I'm so grateful that I can share my culture, which I'm so proud of, with my children, and also with the Korean community here in Dayton, and also with you, the American people here in this community. I'm so blessed to still remember this wonderful dance and have the opportunities to share with all of you.
The Indian bamboo flute is an important instrument in Indian classical music. The South Indian classical dance form is generally performed in royal courts. From the Raghupati family, please welcome Pavan, a flutist, and his sister Rachana, a classical dancer.
That was my brother, Pavan. He is a 6th grader at Watts. He has been learning the Indian classical bamboo flute for almost 5 years now. He started 1 year when we went to India and has been playing ever since. He still attends lessons even after we returned through Skype. Every other week or so, he Skypes his teacher, and every time we go back to India, he has live lessons with her. He likes to play the Indian bamboo flute because he enjoys being able to make melodious music from something as simple as a carved piece of bamboo. My name is Rachana, and I am a sophomore here at Centerville High School. I play the Indian Carnatic violin in addition to dancing Bharatanatyam. Bharatanatyam is an ancient classical dance form that actually originated in India over 2,000 years ago. I have been learning this form of dance for almost 10 years now. I like dancing and playing the Indian Carnatic violin because they connect me back to my heritage. They give me pride in where I come from and also help me to further understand my culture.
Shankar, Jazz is a music genre that originated at the beginning of the 20th century within the African American communities of the southern United States. In the early days, jazz incorporated elements from popular music. There's West Coast jazz, cool jazz, Indo jazz, free jazz, Latin jazz, smooth jazz, punk jazz, etc. Then there's Josh and Nathan jazz. We give you Josh Strange and Nathan Benedict.
Hello everybody, my name is Nathan Benedict. I'm 17 and I'm a senior here at Centerville. I picked up the guitar about 8 or 9 years ago after I heard some classic rock groups from the 60s and 70s, and that made me want to start playing music.
Hi, my name is Josh Strange. I'm also 17, but I go to Fairmont High School in Kettering. I started playing the guitar around the 4th grade, and I started playing because my neighbor had a guitar, and I just thought it was the coolest instrument ever. And so I got myself a guitar and started playing mostly rock music. And around this time in elementary school, me and Nathan knew each other through Normandy Church in Centerville, but we didn't know that we played the same instrument until in 7th grade, we attended the Miami Valley Jazz Camp together.
The Miami Valley Jazz Camp is a week-long program that's put on by the Dayton Jazz Orchestra for 1 week, usually the 1st or 2nd week in June every summer. This enables students who are interested in jazz to be able to play big band music and also a combo, which is usually 6 to 8 musicians. This is a great way, and this is how I found my love for jazz.
Our mentor at the camp, his name is Jim Smith, and he's in attendance tonight. He's just an amazing guitarist in general, and he just has this endless supply of knowledge about music. But he's humble enough to be a wonderful teacher and a wonderful guy to watch play, and he's an awesome person. And so we want to thank Jim for helping us grow as musicians as we have.
Outside of jazz camp, I participate in the Centerville High School jazz ensembles here, which are starting up soon. Our winter concert is going to be coming up in a couple months, so watch out for that. I've also, for the past 2.5 years, started a jazz combo with some friends that I've made throughout the jazz program in the Miami Valley Jazz Camp, and we played consistent gigs over those 2.5 years. And it was a great way for me to learn how to play with other musicians who had that same passion for jazz that I did.
In high school, I've been a member of the marching band and the indoor percussion ensemble and the concert band, as well as the jazz band. And while marching band might not seem like it's related to jazz at all, I'm able to relate marching band back to jazz because jazz influences all music, and there's a part of jazz in everything. And just being in marching band even though it might not be directly connected to jazz, I still feel like I've gained a lot from all facets of life because they relate back to jazz. The way jazz works, I don't think many people actually know. The way it works is just like any other genre. You have a melody and you play the melody over chords.
After the melody is played, melody is also referred to as the head. The musicians will go into a solo. The solo is played over the same chord changes, and it's improvised, which means that they're making it up as they go, if you will. This allows the band, musician, whoever's playing, to express themselves more freely, as well as explore new musical areas.
After all the musicians have played solos, you go back to the melody and you play it, and that usually ends the song. So the song we're going to play tonight is a jazz standard called Cottontail, written by the great Duke Ellington.
Voices and Stories, sponsored by the Centerville, Washington Township Diversity Council. Please give our talented guests another round of applause.
important in any community. It allows us to see into the window, into the lives of other cultures.
See through the window? That's creepy. A program like Voices and Stories gives us insight into the world around us.
That's what I meant.
But that's not what you said.
But that's what I meant.
But that's not what you said.
Anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. Please meet us in the lobby after the show for some drinks and snacks.
So, before we end the program, we'd like to sing a melody of everything you've heard tonight.
What are you talking about?
That's not what we are doing.
You're supposed to introduce Alan, the director of Voices and Stories. What? Oh, sorry. My bad. And now, please welcome Alan Bomar Jones, the director of Voices and Stories.
We wouldn't be a complete program without thanking the wonderful students, the teachers, Mike Cordonier, and everyone, all the hard work they've done to make this beautiful presentation come true. Can you give them a... Involvement. So go to cwtdiversity.org and get involved in the Diversity Council, which can help get involved in Voices and Stories, which would help us fill these seats. Your involvement, your input, and your support is so vital to the success of a program such as this. I'm very proud and very blessed to be the man they call each year to direct this. And I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and I want to thank the Centerville, Washington Township Diversity Council for this opportunity. Thank you, guys.